Auckland Council has been caught up in Choppergate. The residents and some councillors are pushing back after rich listers and married couple Anna Mowbray and Williams were granted permission to build a private helipad at their Westmere neighbourhood. One councillor has put forward motions to ban private helicopters in residential zones, one covering all of Auckland, the other just focused on the Hauraki Gulf Islands. The Gulf-only proposal passed and now heads to central government for approval, but the citywide version has been bogged down in staff considerations. Instead of moving ahead with a total ban, a proposal by Councillor Richard Hills to ask the Environment Court for clarity has been backed, effectively slowing things down. Waitematā and Gulf Ward Councillor Mike Lee is preparing another notice of motion to bring the full prohibition back to the table, and this would be as a second attempt after narrowly missing the last time. And he joins me now. Mike, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Mike, can we start by just asking you what sparked this whole helicopter debate? Was it the Mowbray-Williams Westmere helipad that tripped things over the edge?
I hate to say it because the Mowbray name seems to be so newsworthy, especially nowadays. This started a long time before it was Williams's application, actually, technically, but people like to use the name Mowbray because it's interesting. But anyway, no, this goes back about 5 or 6 years when helipads, especially in Auckland, in the coastal areas of Auckland, I represent a maritime ward, which includes the western bays of in Auckland and in the Waitematā Harbour, but also the Gulf Islands. Helipads for rich listers started to become a major concern for neighbours. The shattering impact of noise on the neighbourhood is considered intolerable, and I can understand that. So when I was re-elected to Auckland Council back in 2022, at the very first meeting of the Planning Committee, I raised this, that I was going to move towards getting helipads in residential areas to become a prohibited activity under the RMA. In the following March, the council officers brought back a report which had been long promised because of the controversy over the preceding years, but it stopped short of making any meaningful changes, and so I managed to get it amended that they go back and come back with a report on how we can make helipads in residential areas prohibited.
Yeah.
At the end of the year, they came back and they said it's not possible, it's not desirable, and they had a consultant's report by an expert who argued along those lines. Unfortunately, the only consultant it appears they could get was an acoustics expert, not a retired judge, not an academic planner, just an acoustics boffin who is a semi-permanent consultant to the council, so not credible at all, frankly. So in response to 3 local boards, Aotea Great Barrier, Waiheke Island, and the city's Waitematā local board all came out for prohibited activity. So in March last year, myself and Councillor Kieran Leone moved to make helipads prohibited in residential areas in the Gulf and in the city, and it lost by 2 votes, 8 votes to 10. So then we moved. So then we had another 18 months to run out for our terms of office. So I waited till we got closer to the election so that councillors would be more mindful of the concerns of the public and ideally less mindful of the concerns of the council planners who are totally invested, it seems, in keeping the status quo, which they believe was a non-complying activity, which sounds very strict, and it is reasonably strict, but it doesn't stop anyone getting a consent if they've got enough resources to argue the case.
Yeah.
Then the Williams Mowbray case, we'll call it that, went to a hearing. I think it was in May or June, May I think, and then the commissioners, independent commissioners, so-called, that the council employs. The council outsources everything nowadays, including administering the law. They came out with a decision which shocked everyone, including the council planners, by saying it's not even non-compliant. Helipads are permissible because they're normal residential activity. A helipad is like a garage or an outdoor barbecue, and it's a free for all, which is kind of absurd, really. But nonetheless, it drove a truck bomb through the very expensive years to create Auckland Unitary Plan, and so the council was deeply embarrassed because it didn't want to ban helipads. It just wanted to keep the status quo. The submitters against Quiet Sky Waitematā and 1,306 submitters who oppose are now going to appeal. The council can't appeal because it can't appeal its own decision. This is how weird and muddled up it has all become. Now, yesterday we took that notice of motion back to the committee. We split it in two as a sort of a fail-safe measure. That was my instinct. And it was backed up by a petition of 4,197 names. It was backed up by the local boards. It was backed up by the Herne Bay Residents Association and individuals, Quiet Sky Waiheke even. So the notice of motion was put on the agenda and was supported by an enormous number of people, but we never even got to vote on it because halfway through the very long debate, and it wasn't a debate so much as a protracted question and answer, a sort of a debate by question whereby council planners took over the narrative and muddled our notice of motion, which is for the future, not for present consents, not even for the only Williams and a Mowbray consent, because they have that right now. Yeah, this is for the future to put a stop to this, because where is it going to end? Well, anyway,
Mike, sorry, Mike, sorry, I don't like to interrupt, but we don't actually have time to go through all of the motions and everything that happened yesterday.
No, I'm getting to, you asked your question there, but right, anyway, we weren't able to vote on our notice of motion. I'll leave it at that.
All right, so the Gulf Islands ban went through though, didn't it?